Everyone, Joe Waxman here. And in this video, I want to look at the chart of John Maynard Keynes. Now, I'm sure a lot of people, probably young people, don't even know who he is, but he was a British economist that has really defined modern economic theory for the last century or so. Guys, don't forget to hit the like button and please subscribe if you haven't already. And just also a reminder that my astrology class is tomorrow at 7 p.m. Eastern time. That's New York time, USA p.m. On Sunday. Cost is $15, but $10 if you need it to be, or even less if you want to come and you can't afford that. But just email me anyway, and I'll put you on the list and let you know how you can pay, or we can figure something else out. All right, guys. Yeah, just gonna share my screen. Okay, Keynes. And the reason he's important is because he defines our modern economic system and where we are today. A lot of people don't really have much of a clue about this, but yeah, he was born on my birthday, June 5th, but almost 100 years before, not quite 100, but almost. All right, so he was an English economist whose ideas fundamentally changed the theory and practice of macroeconomics and the economic policies of governments. Originally trained in mathematics, he built on the greatly refined early works and the causes of business cycles. One of the most influential economists of the 20th century, he produced writings that are the basis for the school of thought known as Keynesian economics and its various offshoots. His ideas reformulated as new Keynesianism as fundamental to mainstream macroeconomics. Macroeconomics is big, like main macro, big economic theory. Right? That's why I call my astrology macro astrology, because big picture. Right. All right. So he's very good at mathematics. And his whole thing was, his whole philosophy was that government should control the money supply and provide stimulus and just have total control over every aspect of the money supply, and that way they could avoid economic downfall and like things like the Great Depression or other collapses or crashes, recessions, depressions, things of that nature, that could be controlled through government control in a central bank, right? Where the central bank can loan out money for, it'll adjust the interest rate. And there's many problems with that. I mean, one thing that we see is that for many years, there was 0% interest rate money lending with no backing, fiat dollars. Originally, the currency was backed by gold, so it was stable, right? And that's fine. But then Nixon took it off the gold backing in 1971, I believe. And since then, the government has been able to print whatever amount of money it wants, like trillions of dollars, usually up to whoever's the president at the time kind of sets the tone of that. The problem is when you're printing money, you're weakening the value of the dollar, which is basically a tax on the people, the people who are making the value of the economy. So you're robbing the wages, robbing the value of the people of the country, and then you're lending it out at 0% to big banks and financial institutions, which is free money, because when there's 0% interest, you can borrow money. Let's say a bank borrows $1 billion, right? And it makes regular payments on it, but they're lending it out to homeowner for mortgages or business loans or other kind of loans, right? To us plebs, us lowly people, we're paying a hefty interest on that loan that they're paying zero interest. They're making regular payments. They're enriching themselves for free, right? So it's a way to siphon up money to the top, where we have now the biggest financial disparity ever. We have like all these billionaires, like tons and tons of billionaires. That did not used to be the case. Like, you know, obscene amounts of money that the whoever can get into the upper echelon of things, they're allowed to get the rewards of this Keynesian style of economics, where the Fed just gives out money to the rich bigwigs, you know, all the fat cats on Wall Street, the big financial institutions. They get obscenely rich, and we get poorer and poorer and poorer. So this is the kind of system that Keynes advocated for. Now, it's not that he's completely wrong, that at times of financial collapse, during depressions or recessions, that the government shouldn't, you know, stimulate the economy with easy money, you know, expanded credit and low interest rates, right? That can help spur, you know, stimulus, like people spending. And I mean, the analogy is like coffee. You know, if you're tired and you drink a cup of coffee, that's not, you know, you feel energized. And I like coffee. I'm not against coffee. You feel energized, but there's a debt that comes with that. It's not free energy. You have to pay that back, because it's depleting your kidney energy, your adrenal glands. You know, that energy is coming from at a cost, and you have to pay it back. The same thing when you go into debt, when government goes into debt to you know, expanding credit, low interest rates, and all that, that should be paid back. And what we've done actually is and we're going to see the end of this cycle now, is we have a debt-based system where instead of paying back the debt, they just print more money and go deeper into debt. Eventually, there comes a point where that debt cannot be paid, and it defaults, and there's crash. And then they bring in, you know, big war and say, oh, we need a new system and stuff like that. That's coming. That's right around the corner. But this is a very, very irresponsible kind of system that he advocates for. But of course, the bigwigs love it, because it's all about power and control. It's like, yes, of course we should have all the power and control. Of course we should be able to print free money and give it to ourselves and make ourselves rich. And, you know, you pay the bill, you plebs, you poor, you know, poor useless eaters. That's basically what's going on. And just to give you an idea, there's this great video on YouTube, Fear the Boom and Bust, Keynes versus Hayek. This is Keynes, this is Hayek, and it's a rap song. It's about their differences. Keynes was all about you know, government control of the finances, stimulus, you know, credit, central banking. And Hayek was all about, this is like the Austrian school of economics, free markets. Free markets will, you know, work out better, because you're not creating this endless debt cycle. And that's, if allowed free markets to work properly, then they will just have a natural balance. It's about natural systems versus controlled systems. And I just want to show you, oh, we'll get to that. We'll get to that. We'll talk a little bit more about Keynes. So anyway, Keynes is all about, first of all, very intelligent mathematical brain, and he wrote a book, and he became very popular because he's all like, oh, the government should have total control of the finances, and that's the best method. And they're like, of course we should. You know, it's like, you know, pouring drinks for the people in power. You know, it's like, yes, let's have more of that. You're rubbing their egos, you're inflating them, you're giving them power and control. And who doesn't want that? You know, these psychopathic maniacs are like, yes, we should have more power and control. That's the system we want. Of course, give us all the power and control over the money supply. Yes, that's the most brilliant system. So in any case, he was born in Cambridge, England, to an upper middle class family. his father was already an economist and a lecturer, and he was very privileged, as they say. Not because he's white or European, but because he's privileged, because he was born into upper middle class family, right? So he grew up and he was very smart. He excelled at math, and he also liked philosophy and arts. Any case, he got a scholarship, went to high level education, received a bachelor's in mathematics, and was considered gifted mathematically, intellectually. So let's see, he began as a civil servant. I'm just going to speed right through this. He quickly moved into politics and economics, more economics than politics. And let's see, he got involved with government, and they used him to negotiate credit and whatnot, stuff like that. He took up an official position at the Treasury. He's very smart, no doubt. Right? All right, and so he just kept he kept doing well and getting more power and control, and yeah. Before then, I think free markets were more like considered the way to go, and then he's like, no, governments and the people who already have power should have even more power. Which is it's like, of course they're gonna like that, and then they're gonna be like, hey, newspaper, hey, media, write articles in favor of Keynes saying we should have more power than we already have, which is the way it works. That's always the way it works. That's the way it works right now, and that's the way it's always worked. People read the newspaper and they're like, oh, this is independent journalism. No, it's not. You're dummy. That's not independent journalism. They don't like independent journalism. They crush independent journalism. So let's see. He wrote books, and he gained power, and he gained influence, and he had a lot of critics, especially from people who wanted more responsibility in their economic theory, like Hayek, like Milton Friedman, like Ludwig von Mises, and there were others. And they came later. He was pretty early on, I think. I'm not going to read all of this, obviously. But his general theory was that that we need to stimulate demand from the public by increasing credit, increasing money, increasing the money supply, right? So you hand out easy loans to big financial institutions. If you don't charge them much interest or even zero interest, then they can loan it out at a lower interest, and then people have money, and then they spend, and then you get the economy going that way. And that's how you avoid, depression, recession, or come out of one if there already is one, right? And that's how they're trying to manage the economy that way. And that's what we're doing right now, right? And that's, it led to fiat currency, that trend. It didn't start out there, but it led to fiat currency. And fiat currency, if you don't know, it's not backed by gold. And just a couple of things about that. People say like gold is money, gold is money, gold is money. Right? Gold is only money because we value it. We see that it has an inherent aesthetic value. We make jewelry out of it. We like it. It's ornate, right? People value it. But and then they say like fiat currency. I'm just expressing different sides because you can't just have a flat view about this. They say fiat currency is not backed by anything, and that's not quite true. If it wasn't backed by anything, it would just turn to dust. It's backed by the GDP of a nation, right? If a nation is producing value through its creative endeavors, then its currency is going to be valuable. Obviously, there are other things that can make it valuable, like if there's an agreement to that countries need to buy and sell or buy oil with dollars, then they have to buy dollars in order to buy oil. That's going to increase the value. That's going to make a stable base for a currency, which we're moving off that. Saudi Arabia already decided not to use the dollar to exchange their oil. They're taking other currencies, so we no longer have the petrodollar. They're moving in with the BRICS nations, which is backing their currency with gold. I think that's a good thing, but I'm just saying, like, it's not that we're not backed by anything. People have this wrong notion that gold is the only thing that's valuable. This is clearly false, right? We create value. People create value in the economy by their creativity, by their entrepreneurial spirit, by their endeavors. Businessmen, good businessmen who create like Apple computers. That's an invention. If you invent something, if you're creating things, right? The computer in general, or architecture, or fine art, or music, or movies. Or anything that you can, that's innovative and unique and valuable. Social media, right? It doesn't matter whether you say, oh, the CIA created it. Well, then the CIA is contributing to the economy. Good music, good movies, people all over the world value that, right? And we have Hollywood, we have a vibrant music industry, and then like all over the world we're exporting these things, and that's propping up the American economy, the dollar, right? Labor, and then the communists always use this. Well, labor, that's where the real value comes from. Labor is yes, valuable, but individually, like one laborer is producing so little value compared to a true creative, an entrepreneur, an artist, a musician, an actor, actress, a movie producer, a writer, book writing, like anybody who's actively producing in a very creative way. Labor is like the bottom of the barrel. And I've been a laborer a lot, so it's not like I'm against laborers. I get it, but they don't produce that much value. The people who produce the value are the ones who take the risk, who are entrepreneurs, who are artists, who are creatives in some way, right? All different kinds of, just many, many different types of creativity, right? And they're the ones who are making value. Of course, there's other types of value, like taking oil out of the ground, or coal out of the mountains, gold, steel, diamonds, they're natural resources, right? But so food, obviously, one of the main valuable things. I mean, gold is not nearly as valuable as food. When you're starving, which would you rather have, a hunk of gold or a big bucket of food, dry goods, right? I'd rather have the food, because water is another one that's extremely valuable, far more valuable than gold, right? So you could have but water's, you can control water actually, but it rains, and then so you have to, in any case, land is another one. So there are many different aspects to how to back a currency, how to have value in a currency. It's not just gold. Some people have this foolish idea that it's only gold, and then they say things like Bitcoin and blockchain are backed by nothing, which is not true at all, because blockchain is an incredible, if you study blockchain, like go and study actually blockchain if you're not convinced about this, and you'll see that it's an invention that is incredibly valuable, and they didn't have it before blockchain existed. There was no blockchain, obviously, and you can't just invent blockchain out of nothing. It's a brilliant idea, right? Just like the internet's a brilliant idea, just like the cell phone is a brilliant idea, and that is inherently where the value comes from in its brilliance, because when you don't have something, you don't have it. Like before the wheel was invented, they didn't have the wheel. So you can't just say like, oh, the wheel is not valuable at all. The wheel, of course the wheel is valuable, because it took like some sort of inventive turn of events to create the wheel. It took some like invention, like study the history of blockchain. It solved a problem that was very necessary, and that's why it's valuable. So it's not backed by nothing. It's nonsense. These people don't understand value, right? It's valuable because it's necessary. Just the same way gold is valuable, because we like gold. We as human beings, we find value in gold. We like to decorate ourselves and decorate our houses, our assets, our cars, or whatever. We like gold, for various reasons. It has use. The same for blockchain. It has use. and it will have use 100 years from now. It will have use 1,000 years from now. It will have use 10,000 years from now. It'll have use 100,000 years from now. It'll have use 1,000,000 years from now. So it's always going to be valuable. Therefore, Bitcoin has inherent value, right? Blockchain has inherent value. It's not backed by nothing. These people who say that, they're wrong. They're straight up wrong. So that's my rant about that. Okay, so yeah, so Keynes became incredibly popular, mainly because he's giving the people who have power way more power, right? Just ridiculous amounts of power. And there's huge problems with that. We're coming to the end of fiat currency, and we're going back to gold-backed currency, or asset-backed currency, with the BRICS nations, because fiat currency and Keynes economics is not complete. It's missing. It's far too abstract, far too intellectual, and we'll look at that. We'll look at that why that is, right? Interestingly, let's see. One of the things he was critical of is, oh, by the way, he was gay. At least he was gay in his early life. Then he married a woman. And he was pretty agnostic or atheistic, interested in philosophy, but not religion. Excuse me. And he was critical of communism or Marxism. I'll read you the quote. How can I accept a doctrine which sets up as its Bible, above and beyond criticism, an obsolete textbook, which I know not only to be scientifically erroneous, but without interest or application to the modern world? How can I adopt a creed which, preferring the mud to the fish, exalts the boorish proletariat above the bourgeoisie and the intelligentsia? That's obnoxious. I mean, like, can we just value people? You know, can we value human beings? He's saying, oh, the upper class should, you know, we should value. And by the way, communism only pretends to value the workers. What they really value is power and control, because the workers end up being slaves. It's a complete ruse. And so he's arguing against the facade of communism, not the true intention of communism, which is communism is a ruse. They said it, the true powers that be support communism and supposed capitalism. They're both ruses. It's a Hegelian dialectic. They need an enemy in order to create the polarity and, you know, scare the people into gaining more and more control. It's all about power and control. Let's see. Who, with all their faults, are the quality of life and surely carry the seeds of all human achievement. Even if we need a religion, how can we find it in the turbid rubbish of the red bookshop? It is hard for educated, decent, intelligent son of Western Europe to find his ideals here, unless he has first suffered some strange and hard process of conversion, which has changed all his values. It doesn't matter. I mean, yeah, they differ on face value, but what Keynes and communism both have in common is usurping the power up to an all-powerful government that, you know, that trashes, you know, that takes a dump on the people, right? And takes all the power, and everyone's a slave anyway. Whether you're talking about Keynesian economics, where we are now, where the dollar just can't even buy anything, and we have diminished wages in relationship to the value of the dollar, and we're all poor, or we're all enslaved in communism, where we're all poor again. You know, it's 6 of one, half a dozen of the other. The rich get richer, the poor get poorer. The governments, you know, have their boot on our neck, on our head, both ways. It doesn't matter. It's both. They're you know, horrible, right? All right. So that's Keynes. You can tell how much I love Keynes. All right. Now I just wanted to contrast Keynes with Hayek. Hayek was his main rival. Friedrich Hayek, not Selma Hayek. It's a funny meme about that, you know, having a picture of Salma Hayek and a quote from Friedrich Hayek, saying Hayek. Any case, he's all Taurus and Gemini, but Pluto's in Gemini, so the power is obviously with Gemini and the intellect. But let me just quickly show you Hayek. And there's no time of birth for Hayek. Otherwise, I would have loved to read Hayek's chart. But let's see. Keynes has a sun and moon in Gemini. Hayek has his sun and moon in Taurus. So Taurus is much more about finances. I mean, obviously, but natural. What's things that are natural. And Gemini is much more about the intellect. And these are archetypes. I'm not biased towards one or the other. I'm obviously a Gemini sun and Venus, so I love Gemini. But Gemini is all about the mental faculties, right? Versus Taurus, which is much more natural and sensorial and grounded in earth and reality. And Gemini tends to be much more abstract, right? But if we look back here, Pluto's in Gemini both. The power is moving towards Gemini because the outer planets fuel the sort of trends of society. Wherever the outer planets go, that's where the trends of society go. So with Pluto moving into Gemini, he's already, it was when he was born also, but like when he's already like teaching and writing his books, I'm sorry, not teaching, but writing his books and, professing his, grand philosophy to everyone. Pluto's already well into Gemini. So everyone's all like, and Pluto's all about power and control, right? So the whole society is saying, yes, we should have power and control. That's why, somebody's saying, no, free markets, let's be natural and responsible, is not going to win the favor of society as much as this, very intellectual abstraction, power control of the intellect where Pluto resides. So that's why Keynes won over Hayek. It's not that Hayek was an inferior intellect or that, his theories were less correct or less, accurate. And it's not to say that there's not room also for, going into debt or, credit expansion, which is Keynes' central philosophy. There is, but then you have to pay back the debt, right? I mean, that's just human beings being responsible, right? Like you go into debt, well, the responsible thing, the philosophy is pay back your debt, right? That's the normal adult philosophy. It's okay to go into debt, but pay back your debt. It's okay to have coffee. It's okay to have a drink of alcohol, on occasion. You don't want to be an alcoholic, but you have to make it up for it. Like, if you go out at night drinking, then you have a hangover. You don't just like, let's go back to drinking, hair of the dog or lots of hairs of the dog, like let's drink to cover up the hangover. That's irresponsible. That's absurd. But that's what Keynes brought to the government. They're just like, oh, endless free, easy money. Like, let's just spend until we can't, cover the debt anymore. Then we'll create a massive war, destruction, and then we'll start over, which is where we're headed right now in World War III. This is the whole big picture of what's happening to the world, right? We're seeing the end of the fiat experiment, end of Keynesian finance. And this is boring for some people, but it's incredibly, if you're an adult, you really should be paying attention to this. So anyway, let's look at the astrology. I mean, look at the huge concentration in Taurus and Gemini, 10th house, 11th house. I mean, is there really much to say? I mean, okay, so first of all, born June 5th, same day as me, but so his sun is conjunct moon, Mercury, Saturn and Pluto, huge Gemini stellium, right in the 10th, moving to the 11th house. And the 11th whole sign house. So 11th house will have to do with obviously groups, networks, career success, hopes, wishes, dreams, they say. However, what it's really thinking about is society. 11th house. Society makes somebody big-minded, and they want to think about all of society and how to not control, but just, they're about, politics, social issues, all these things, right? It makes somebody big-minded. I have an 11th house moon. So I'm always interested in social issues and politics and world events and affairs and all of that stuff, right? So that's the first thing. And in order, he didn't just study like finance and just become like an investor or investment banker or something like that, which would have been very Taurian, Scorpio, right? Second house. eighth house. He wants to, be the economist that defines economics for the whole Western world, for the whole world, really, for the whole modern world, right? And anyone who tried to go off that, who tried to establish a gold standard, we pay a friendly visit to in the name of democracy, and we kill their leaders and destroy their country. Iraq, Libya. That's, hey, if you want to know, I mean, gaining control of, maybe their oil reserves, or in the case of Afghanistan, opium and rare minerals and things like that. But definitely the gold-backed currency was a huge, because that offsets, the big financial experiment where they enrich themselves and make us all poor, right? Because you can't have good money. Good money beats out bad money. Something like that. So in any case, yeah, and that's also the war that's going on with Russia and China now. They're creating an asset-backed currency, gold-backed currency, and that's going to destroy fiat. So fiat's done. Fiat is done. The next experiment is CBDC, right? Central bank digital currency, where they can have even more control. But the war now is between a real money, which is asset-backed, because you can't just print it and spend, like to the nth degree with asset-backed currencies, because it's, you can't just make gold out of nothing. You can't just make grain or oil out of nothing. You can harvest it, you can grow it, you can mine it, right? But these are slow processes that are limited, right? So yeah, that's the war that we're facing right now. It's a war for control, financial control, political control. In any case, Gemini is all about the intellect. It's all about the mind. It's all about abstraction. Taurus is not about abstraction. Taurus is finance. Taurus is, physical, grounded, sensorial. So he's obviously interested in finances with the South Node, Mars, Venus, Neptune, Chiron. So he's got a huge Taurus stellium, 10th house, Venus conjunct the MC. It's very strong, very powerful, South Node. So you can also see that, Mars ruling the 4th house. From an early age, he's like brought up into his own career, right? Like his father was an economist, right? So, and he's already rich. His father helped him out a lot, or relatively, well off, right? Mathematics. Mathematics is actually very Taurian. Yeah, you could say Gemini, but actually Taurus, Gemini. If both of these are, I was very good at math, and I have strong Taurus and Gemini as well. So I actually understand. If I was smart, I had a difficult upbringing, not in the way you might imagine, but anyway, I probably should have gone into math or something like that instead of art, because art is useless for most people. Any case, yeah, so he was excellent in math. That's Venus in Taurus, but also Mercury in Gemini, right? Venus and Taurus can be, artistic as well, and he was interested in arts and philosophy, and well, that might be the Jupiter here, but also South Node Mars, because Mars is ruling the 9th house, so philosophy, yeah. But he also, like, for the gay thing, very strong Venus. So gay men, or at least bisexual men, have a very strong Venus. And then I think probably as he got older, with the North Node in Scorpio, that activated more of the Martian side of things, and that's why he married a woman. But this is not a definite formula, but a lot of times you'll see a strong Venus in gay men, or at least bisexual men, because their feminine qualities are overpowering their masculine qualities. So yeah. So Venus is really strong here, and he's brought up into, like, math and economics, things of that nature. Saturn is conjunct Pluto, and that's like deadly serious combination. right? It's in Gemini, it's all about the intellect, but Pluto and Saturn's the authority, Saturn's the structure, the rule of law, and Pluto is the deep intensity, the power, the control, right? So you can see that he wants power and control for the authority in the realm of the intellect, right? It's the intellect ruling over everything. We have the power to control the finances, and it should be with the government, and full authority and control. Abstraction. Gemini's abstract with the government, and Mercury here, obviously in Gemini, very, very good Mercury, very intelligent, very smart. But the problem with Gemini, and again, there's going to be issues with every archetype, right? Because they're just one side, they're all one-sided. Gemini can be too abstract. It can lack grounding. It's mutable air, right? And Taurus, the most grounded sign, is in the 12th from Gemini. So there's a loss of Taurian energy with Gemini. So there's a loss of grounding. There's a loss of stability. Gemini is the realm of the abstract, right? So is Aquarius, but in a different way. Gemini is the original abstraction. Aquarius is much more intellectually creative than Gemini. Gemini is just all about flights of intellectual fancy and just like, we're taking off. We're leaving the Earth behind, and we're no longer thinking about the Earth. We're no longer thinking about things of grounded nature. And that's why, he was just into this kind of abstraction of Taurian concerns. It's all very relevant here, evident, I should say. 10th and 11th house, career. So Taurus, Leo ascendant. So Sun is in Gemini. Sun is his ascendant lord. So he's very focused, right? Because we can see that this huge stellium, 10th and 11th house, he's all about career. He's all about, the big philosophy of Jupiter's exalted in Cancer in the 11th house, moving into the 12th. But so foreign concerns as well, philosophy, establishing a financial philosophy for the whole world is what he's really focused about. It's super evident. And so South Node is conjunct Venus and Mars, but Venus is much stronger, obviously, and it's Taurus, in Taurus. But then, so if we look at the node, North Node's in Scorpio, but that's 4th house, ruled by Mars. Mars again in the 9th, 10th. So it's a continuation. Even though as he gets older, he's going to be a bit more scorpionic. And again, I'm not sure how this other than he did get married. So maybe he got a bit more masculine as he got older. Grew a pair of balls, I guess, maybe you could say, with Scorpio being such a, aggressive sign, deep, intense, aggressive. Maybe he liked to be more at home, but again, Mars ruling it and Pluto being the co-ruler, they're both rich. So still career, the public domain, social, political concerns, still very strong. And basically, you can just see, like, I don't need to go through, obviously I'll talk about Uranus, but all the houses are right up here in the 10th and 11th house, right? Everything went back to this, right? Let's see. With Mercury conjunct Moon, you can't really separate it out from the Sun. The Sun's very close as well. Moon's going to be hidden by the Sun. It's a new moon, so good for starting new endeavors, new intellectual pursuits, new creations. but just generally with Moon conjunct Mercury, that's very good for expressing the heart, for being effective with your writing, with your communicating. You can, somebody with Moon conjunct Mercury, they can capture people's hearts, influence people on a deeper level with their mercurial communications, right? Depending on which houses Mercury is ruling. But Mercury is also square Uranus. Uranus is in Virgo. Mercury is in excellent dignity here in Gemini, and it's also domicile and exalted in Virgo, right? So this square is actually quite good, because even though it's a square and a square creates tension, Uranus relates well to Mercury because they're both very intellectual. Uranus and Mercury combinations produce brilliant kind of thinking, right? Very active mind, very creative, mentally creative, right? But the square also is going to outwardly affect more change, like versus like if Mercury was trine or sextile Uranus, that would be a very easy combination. It might be very brilliant, but it's not going to push. It's not going to push very hard. It's going to be more of a flowy, go with the flow kind of thing, combination. Yeah, brilliant might affect, inspire lots of people, but the square is actually going to be a bit pushy and aggressive, right? And it's going to actually affect change in society, because it's not only internal, it's external. It changes how people with a lot of squares become, not only do they have difficulties in their own life, but they use that square energy or inconjunct or whatever it is, the difficult aspect, to create change in the external world, right? Somebody with just all trines, they're just going to be too easygoing. They're going to be, they're very skilled and talented, brilliant in certain ways, but they're not going to push for change. They're just going to take it easy. They're just going to go with the flow. They're going to make a lot of money and just, sip martinis on their yacht or whatever they like doing, having girls, and just going to be lazy, and, all trines and sextiles is just going to be very easy. They're not going to do anything, like they're not going to push for change. But he actually changed radically. Radical ideas changed society, pushed for revolution in economics. That's the square, right? Uranus is trine Neptune, so very high ideals, imagination. That's going to be very easy. He's going to have radical thinking in that way, and he's in that sense, it's going to be very brilliant and easy. But that's an easygoing aspect for him. But then this sesqui square with Mars and Uranus, so he's like pushy. He's pushy. Mars in Uranus is aggressive, right? Because it's kind of explosive. Like Mars is the physical aggression. Uranus is that lightning that just wants it now. Like it's just like, wow, it's explosive. Mars and Uranus together. And this is the second house, finances, security. Second house, Uranus on its own is very spendy, right? Very risky with their investments. So he values risky investments. He's just like, let's take big risks with the money supply, right? And we'll just control everything, power and control. With our intellect, we'll control it all, but we'll be risky. We'll spend lots of money here and there. Uranus is also brilliant, especially in Virgo. Virgo is very intellectual, right? I mean, this is so straightforward and clear, right? Let's see. Jupiter is ruling the 8th. So if you look at, fifth house is also speculative investments, but 8th house is shared money, shared resources, and it's moving into the 12th, 11th, 12th, but social, economic, political, and foreign countries, but it's in good dignity here in Cancer. It's exalted, so that's just like it's just more it's all playing into the same theme. Like it's like he's all about finances and the intellect and control and power, and on a world scale, right? Not just for himself. He's all about, you know, doing applying his philosophy to the whole world. All right. Let's see here. By the way, 8th and the 12th, if we're looking at it, it's not fully in the 12th, it's Jupiter. But if it was, that would be a good thing, because it's secret, right? It's hidden, water. And so it's malefic. It's not just water, because it's not the same with 4th and 8th or 4th and 12th. But 6th, 8th, and 12th, the malefic houses. When one lord goes into the other of those houses, it mitigates the negativity, because those houses can, they can handle it. It's similar nature. So there's some good that can come out of that. It's like Jupiter's in good dignity, so for the 8th house. I forgot to mention. Okay, one more thing. Jupiter's in good dignity, so the 8th house is generally good. And Jupiter's good to have as a ruler of the 8th house in general. But so in the 12th house, it's bringing foreign things, but also secret and hidden things. And so like it negates the harmful effects of the 8th house, which is death to reputation, things like that, sudden events. But he did die young, and that's probably mostly because Saturn is conjunct Pluto. Saturn's ruling the 6th house. So poor health, 60 something, heart failure, something like that, heart attack. So Saturn conjunct Pluto. That's a very, very heavy, overly serious conjunction that will make somebody extremely hardworking. And Saturn's not bad in Gemini. It's going to really create like a very strong intellect, scientific intellect, a hard intellect, right? But the conjunction of Pluto will just create like such intense seriousness, overworking, like working too hard, just too focused, destroys any lightness or fun. He's not going to be a comedian with Saturn conjunct Pluto in Gemini, even though Gemini is very funny normally. It's going to destroy any lightness or humor that he has in this area. So all work and no play makes Jack a dull boy, that sort of thing. All right, so his draconic, so Mars is in the 2nd. Mars also is very spendy in the 2nd house. It's not conservative. Neither Uranus or Mars are conservative. In Virgo, tends to be conservative, but with Mars and Uranus here, forget it, right? As far as the 2nd house values go. And then huge Libra stellium here, huge, with Venus and Saturn in Libra. So the Libra quality, the business relations, his ability to negotiate and just be like, Libra is, they just get along. They really have a way with people getting along, being balanced, fair, great with negotiations, great with business, with law, with very easy to navigate in the world of people, right? So 2nd and 3rd house influence here, and then Scorpio, Sun, Moon, and Mercury, and Jupiter. Again, Scorpio is a sign of resources. It's the resource of the resource, or the shared resources, right? So still, it's like, dealing with value, with the origins of value, with the minds, with the you know, financial institutions, things of that nature. So that's interesting as well. Moon is not good in Scorpio. It's too intense for Scorpio, for Moon. Moon likes stable. It's really deeply not great for mental balance. Too intense. Uranus and Aquarius in the 6th house. Yeah, it seems appropriate. North node in the 8th house, south node in the 2nd house. Also, Capricorn ascendant. All seems good. All right, that's John Maynard Keynes. We're about to see the ultimate failure of his philosophy. Get ready. This is happening. You know, don't believe me, do your research. Everyone's saying we're about to see the biggest, you know, collapse of not only the US dollar, but all currencies, all fiat currencies that we've ever, I mean, just the ultimate ruination of the financial world, global finances. And this is the father of our modern financial system right here. So he is very much worth knowing about. John Maynard Keynes. And Hayek, even though Hayek, Mises, Milton Friedman, all the free market economists, even though they did not win favor in the modern era so far, they're about to be vindicated because they have a much more responsible system that is grounded in reality, grounded in Taurian values of, you know, asset-backed currency, gold-backed currency, you know, material, solid-backed currency rather than this flimsy fiat. You know, Gemini. I love Gemini. I'm a Gemini, but Gemini is not grounded, right? It's just pure abstraction. It leaves Taurus behind, flies away. Right? So, in any case, that's where we're at, guys. I hope you enjoyed it. Please hit the like button if you did. Subscribe to my channel if you haven't already. Leave a comment down below if you want me to do a reading for somebody. Let me know. Come to my class on Sunday. That's tomorrow, 7 p.m. Eastern Time, Philly, New York. Cost is $10 if you need it to be or less. Just email me and let me know your situation. But I need your email so that you can get on the list. And book a reading with me. You can go to my website, macroastrology.com, which I admit is not very good. I did it myself, and creating websites is not my forte, not my specialty. I probably need to redo it. In fact, I'm sure I do, but right now it is what it is. But you can just skip my website altogether and email me directly at macrogoldmachine@yahoo.com. And that's it for now, guys. I will see you again soon. All right, thank you. Bye.